Hi, I'm Bill. I'm a Dartmouth 26, a current senior studying computer science and quantitative social science, concentrating in environmental studies. Now let me explain what the Dartmouth Quarter System is, or the D plan. So I'll be breaking down what the Dartmouth Quarter System is, what the college requires you to do. I'll give you an example of my quarter system, along with details of study abroads, internships, off terms, how do you balance all of it, and some extenuating circumstances. Let's get into it. Unlike a lot of other schools who have 2 semesters for their academic calendar, we have 4 quarters. We have fall, winter, spring, and summer quarters. Now the fall quarter starts in mid-September and goes till Thanksgiving, so the end of November. Then you get a month-long winter break all the way till the new year. Then the winter quarter starts early January all the way to mid-March, and then you have a 2-week spring break. And lastly, you have your spring quarter from end of March all the way till early June. Now we graduate in June. It's a bit later than a lot of the other schools, and then you have a summer break or the summer quarter starts. The summer quarter will range from the end of June all the way to August. Now to understand the actual D plan, I gotta explain what an on or residence term is versus an off term. On terms are terms in which you're taking courses for academic credit, whereas off terms are just terms where you do not get academic credit from them. That means you could have an on term where you are not physically on campus but getting credit, such as a study abroad program. Now the D plan stipulates that freshmen must be on for their fall, winter, and spring quarters, essentially the whole freshman year, and a lot of freshmen take the summer off, like normal. However, the D plan also stipulates that students must take 1 summer quarter on campus as well. This primarily is for domestic students. International students have kind of a different guideline here. Now what that means is that students typically take their summer on term during sophomore summer, the summer right after sophomore year. Now this is actually an incredible Dartmouth tradition because it's a time where all sophomores get together, get to know their class, and have really a lot of fun on campus in the summer, like it's summer camp. And for seniors, you have to have 2 of the 3 fall, winter, or spring quarters on campus. And with all this convoluted quarter system on and off term things, there's one off term which is actually really unique that Dartmouth has to offer. Essentially, because you're taking sophomore summer on campus, you actually get 1 free off term to do whatever you want. This balances out because you still have 12 total terms on campus getting credits, but that off term you can use essentially any other time outside of freshman year, such that you can do an internship during an off-cycle opportunity, you can go home, spend time with family, you can travel the world, you can do your own freelance stuff, whatever you want, you can do that during your off term. So you just declare that, hey, I'm not going to be taking classes at Dartmouth for this term, and just do whatever you want. Most students elect to do this their sophomore or junior year, and the college advises you do it during your fall or spring, just because they want students on campus in the winter. Great, now what does an on-term actually mean in terms of academics and credits? Dartmouth requires you to have 35 credits in order to graduate. There are no credits granted for high school AP or IB classes, but there might be some credits if you do a college level class, maybe like a Harvard accelerated program in high school, could transfer to credit. I didn't do it, only a few students I know have actually done that. So with 35 credits, students essentially have to take 12 on terms, in which every term averages around 3 credits, where you get 1 additional free 2 course term. 2 course terms are lit because you have such a lighter workload, but you got to make sure you're strategic with them. So with this 2 course term, most students elect to use it during their sophomore summer term or their senior spring term to have lighter workload so they can have more fun with the Dartmouth experience. However, you can overload courses as well. Essentially, you can take from 2 to 4 courses every term you're on, and that is acceptable. If you do take a 4 course term, that means you can essentially have another free 2 course term, given that you only want 35 credits to graduate. You can also take more than 35 credits to get your money's worth. Tuition is insane these days, but most people just take 3 courses on average every term. Now you might be wondering, other schools have 5 to 6 classes every term and you're only taking 3? It must be easy. No, Dartmouth is really quick with the quarter system. As I outlined before, every term is just 10 weeks. Essentially, these are 10-week sprints, as opposed to other schools with 12 to 15-week semesters. This means that every single class is incredibly fast-paced, with midterms happening as early as week 2 or 3, multiple midterms every single quarter, and then obviously a finals week where our reading period is deadass 2 days. We don't have a reading week, we don't have a syllabus week. Those aren't real things at Dartmouth. So if you like a fast-paced learning environment, you really can fit a lot of unique courses, 35 courses to be exact, and learn a wide range of the liberal arts curriculum. However, if you like slower paced courses or want to take more time to learn a lot of these topics, Dartmouth might be a bit tougher for you when you first get into it, but people get used to the rhythm and the speed the longer they're at Dartmouth, of course. To better understand this, let me break down my Dartmouth plan over my 4 years. I came onto campus as a freshman in 2022 fall, which we call 22F, and took courses 23 winter, 23 spring as well. These are my 3 terms on campus as a freshman. Now, one thing I did was I took 4 courses during my spring term freshman year. I decided to do this because 3 of my courses were really easy, so I had another hard course, and I thought I had the bandwidth to do this. It's usually not recommended to take 4 courses because it's just a really demanding workload any term you're at Dartmouth. Now, freshman summer, I took this term off, but thankfully, I was accepted into the first-year fellows program through the Rockefeller Center at Dartmouth, which essentially is a cohort of 20 first-year students who all get internships in Washington, D.C. So I had the opportunity to work under Representative Sean Casten in the House of Representatives. It was an incredible time in D.C., but that term does not count for academic credit, therefore it's considered an off term. Now, coming into sophomore year, sophomore fall is when students rush into Greek spaces, whether that's a frat, sorority, or other house. And thus, it's a very demanding term socially. As a result, because I had a 4-course term already used, I decided to use a 2-course term during 23 fall, or my sophomore fall. This still balanced out my average such that every term on average was a 3-course term, and so it doesn't impact my rate of graduation. But it did really lighten up the workload so I could rush and be social during my fall term. Now, in sophomore winter and spring, I was still on campus taking classes, just 3 each term, until sophomore summer. And like most other sophomores, I took sophomore summer on campus, but I only took 2 courses. So it was a lot more fun, way less demanding, and it was time you just spent with your peers on campus taking easier classes like a summer camp. Now, after 4 terms consecutively in a row, a lot of students need a break, just like myself, and thankfully I was accepted into an exchange program with Yonsei University in Seoul, South Korea. Thus, my junior fall, I went to South Korea to take classes at Yonsei University. This program is offered through Dartmouth's Guarini Institute. Thus, it's an official Dartmouth exchange program with Yonsei University, and the credits I got at Yonsei, which were 4 credits, all pass-fail because it was an exchange program, were transferred to Dartmouth. Thus, considering me taking an on-term because I earned credits for the study abroad. As a result, my junior fall was another 4-course term, even though I was abroad in Korea. Genuinely, studying abroad was the best time of my entire life. Dartmouth has so many study abroad programs that can be taken almost any term, and so I highly, highly recommend anyone who goes to Dartmouth apply to study abroad programs. So many, over 50% of students do at least one, I think, and it's just such an incredible experience that Dartmouth has, maybe more than any other school. Now, again, the great thing about the D plan is that because you take 1 term on campus over the summer, you have the opportunity to take an off term anytime during your Dartmouth experience. And I chose to take this off term right after my study abroad during my junior winter. So from 2025 January to March, I was actually doing a winter internship in Boston, Massachusetts, working at a consulting firm. And right after my winter internship, I came back onto campus my junior spring, took 3 more classes, and it was great. And then junior summer, the time most people do internships is the same timeline. Dartmouth also does junior summer internships, so basically all juniors are off campus and a lot of people are doing internships. Junior summer 2025X, I was off campus doing an internship in Washington, D.C. I was working at an economic consulting firm. This is like any standard internship. I had a great time in D.C., but senior fall rolls back around and it's time to come back to campus. So my senior fall, winter, and spring, I'm on campus the entire time. Right now, it's spring break in between my senior winter and senior spring. Senior spring, I'm super excited. I'm essentially only taking 1 course plus my thesis, which I've been doing all year, and thus I have another 2-course term saved. Now, you might be wondering, Bill, you took 3 2-course terms. How is that possible? Well, again, you just do the math. Every student is offered 1 free 2-course term. Because I took a 4-course term during my freshman spring, I had another free 2-course term. And then, because I had 4 credits from Yonsei University in my study abroad, I had another 2-course term, thus giving me 3 total 2-course terms, which I spread across sophomore fall, sophomore summer, and senior spring. Now, this is my Dartmouth plan. You do not have to follow this at all, though a lot of students' plans might look similar, and this is just one example of a Dartmouth plan. My neighbor's doing some woodworking. I don't know if you can hear that. Now, I'm just going to quickly go over the difference between exchange programs and study abroad sponsored through Dartmouth. Dartmouth study abroad, such as a foreign studies program or a language study abroad, are likely taught by Dartmouth professors and still give you Dartmouth credit, but they're very much like Dartmouth courses, a lot harder, probably more rigorous. On the flip side, for exchange programs, these programs are not taught by Dartmouth professors. You're going to that university, such as Yonsei University, and taking classes from their professors. And it's an exchange program. All the courses are pass-fail for Dartmouth's credit, and thus it's easier to transfer credits. It's not going to impact your GPA, meaning it also won't increase your GPA, but It's kind of more chill, a lot more fun. I highly recommend exchange programs for any Dartmouth student. Now, some students might be worried about the timelines in which you're trying to apply for internships, given the quarter system ends a lot later. Now, this is a slight bit of concern, but most internships and companies understand that Dartmouth is on the quarter system like a lot of other schools in the US, a lot of UC schools, Northwestern, UChicago, they're on these quarter systems, and thus, even though we end later in June, these internships are likely to accommodate. Worst case, you kind of leave campus in the spring a bit earlier to go to your internship. On top of that, a lot of employers know that Dartmouth's on the quarter system and offer off-term internships specifically or targeting Dartmouth students because they have these students who are able to take a random term maybe in the winter, January through March, to just do an internship at any company. Now, with all this being said and the fact that Dartmouth doesn't take AP or high school credits, some people might be asking, well, can you graduate early from Dartmouth? Or is it possible to stay even longer if you don't finish all your credits? And the answer to both of those is yes. These are more extenuating circumstances. I have friends who, for whatever reason, maybe they took an additional off term or even a gap year, did not complete their 35 credits during their 4 years and thus stayed either a whole year or just an extra fall term to complete those credits and graduate. On the flip side, there are also students who, as crazy as it sounds, just take 4 course terms like every single term, and as a result, they're able to finish their 35 credits within 3 years. Now, this is probably highly not advised just because your course load and stress at Dartmouth is going to increase a ton, and you might not have opportunities for a lot of internships or just off terms in general to rest like your peers, but it still is possible. Now, on top of that, another downside is the break schedule. A lot of the times your breaks will not align with your semester friends. But what I've realized is, a lot of other schools might have 2-week-long breaks, or it actually does overlap well enough because Dartmouth has a 2-week-long break such that you can see some of your hometown friends if you have the time to. So of course, there are ups and downs to the Dartmouth quarter system, but I think it's a pretty interesting and cool schedule to be on, and I really enjoy it. This is my experience as a Dartmouth senior. I hope you guys learned a lot. If there are other things I missed, please let me know in the comments below. And if you have any questions or want me to dive into any specifics of my experience, put those in the comments below. I'm gonna be making more Dartmouth content on this YouTube channel, breaking down the intricacies of Dartmouth culture, as well as major paths and whatnot. But also for short form, more fun content, please follow bill._.spills on Instagram, linked below. I really hope this is helpful to any students deciding to apply to Dartmouth or commit to Dartmouth if they got in, and for all future years. Thank you all for watching. Subscribe if you learned something, and I'll see you guys next time. Peace.